Electricast.
All elements for me of this framework, create a team that works together jointly towards goals and executing a vision that the leader may have. It's really powerful because it's about them, not about the leader.
Hi, and welcome to Deep Leadership. I'm your host, John Rennie. Well, I hope all is well with you today. It is another beautiful Saturday morning here in North Carolina, and this episode is brought to you by our sponsors, Jeremy Clevenger Fitness and the Sasquatch Flag Company. Both of these sponsors help me bring these shows to you each and every week, so I encourage you to click on their links below and check them out. I have another great show lined up for you today, but before we get started, I just want to remind you to check out the leadership books I've written on either Amazon or my website, johnsrennie.com. This year, I'm offering a new way to purchase all of my books for a discount. I have bundled the books into what I call the Qualified Leadership Series, and you get all 3 books for 15% off the individual prices. This offer is only available on my website, so check it out if you're looking to step up your leadership game this year. Also, I wanted to remind you that Deep Leadership is ranked as a top 100 management podcast in the U.S. and now in the U.K. I wanted to thank each and every one of you for listening in each week and sharing these episodes with your friends. You have helped this podcast grow into a top-performing show, so thank you very much. Today, we're going to be talking about leadership as a framework to help you systematically develop your leadership skills. Now, there have been so many great books written on leadership, but most are missing a framework to be able to understand this complex topic. My guest today has addressed this issue. Patrick Flesner is an expert at observing business leadership, and he has written a brand new book called The Leadership House, a leadership tale about the challenging path to become an effective leader. This innovative new book is written as a story of a leader on a quest to find the secret of effective leadership. And I love Patrick's unique approach to this topic and the framework that he unveils in this book. This is a conversation that every leader needs to hear. So, are you ready to dive in? Let's get started.
Welcome to Deep Leadership. Leadership is a people business. That's the philosophy of your podcast host, John Rennie. As a former Cold War submarine officer who spent 20 plus years leading businesses in corporate America before starting his own manufacturing business, he knows that leadership matters. Are you ready for some real-world actionable advice from John as well as his expert guests?
I'm ready.
The show starts right now.
Welcome to the Deep Leadership Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Patrick Flesner. Patrick has been working in private equity, venture capital, and mergers and acquisitions for 2 decades. He was a partner at LeadX Capital Partners, where he created one of Europe's largest portfolio of companies in digital commerce. He is the author of a brand new book called The Leadership House, a leadership tale about the challenging path to become an effective leader. In this book, Patrick unveils a leadership framework that will enable you to systematically develop your leadership skills and become a highly effective leader. I am excited to have him on the show to talk about this leadership framework. So, Patrick, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot, John. I highly appreciate it. Great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great to meet you, and congratulations on this book. And I'm really excited to talk about it, especially the idea of a framework. And we're going to get into that because I think leadership tends to be a lot of different ideas, and I think a framework helps put it in a perspective that's easier to understand. But before we dive into the book, I wanted you to tell us a little bit about your background in what you've been doing throughout your career and how those experiences help you better understand the importance of leadership.
Yes, of course. So as you said, I've been working in PE, VC, and M&A for 2 decades, and I think first half of my career, I spent working as a PE lawyer. I was a partner also in business law firms there. And I always, thought I should be on the other side. And I attended the INSEAD MBA program to go on the other side and managed to do so in 2015 when Metro Group, the big international wholesaler, asked me to set up their venture activities. And since then, I'm actively now working with high growth businesses and investing in them. But if we talk about investing, it's not only about providing money. I always say, and probably every investor says this, the work actually starts after having provided the money in terms of working really with the leadership teams and, creating value for them, helping them scale their businesses. And one part is certainly leadership. But leadership also, if you think about Metro as a big wholesaler, publicly traded company, I also had leaders I had to follow. I was also a leader with hopefully some followers. And, law firms are special animals, but leadership is also important there. And I had to learn my lessons as well there. And over time, I certainly understood that more or less, I would say 99% of all reasons for success and failures have to do with leadership.
Yeah. It's interesting because I was thinking about it, preparing for this discussion with you is when you were going about to put in a lot of money into a company and help them scale, you really do put a lot of faith and a lot of trust in that leader. That leader is really important. I would imagine a lot of what you look at when you're going to invest is not just the company and its financials and its history and its products and its market, but also the people that are going to lead that effort. I would imagine that's a big part of it.
Absolutely. So, if you are like an early stage investor, you look for two things. It's a huge market opportunity and a strong team. Now, I've been investing more later stage. I could look into data and understand, has this business already found product market fit? Has it validated the business model? But the main question remains, is the leader, is the CEO, is the founder team able to create a huge company out of the business that it is currently? So it's about leadership, but also about trust. It's really about, we have to work for years together. Do I trust this person? So the ideal situation is I get in touch with the founders, with the management teams, maybe half a year earlier. So I see how they deal with certain situations. How do they cope with challenges? I get to know them personally so that we can build real relationships, because I think real relationships is the basis for trust. And but sometimes we have to be really fast and have to make this decision fast. And then I think at the end of the day, since we cannot look at the heads of our people in front of us, it also boils down a little bit to gut feeling and how does it feel? But trust is so important. For me, it's really, really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a part of your book. We'll talk about trust here in a little bit. So the book is called The Leadership House, a leadership tale about the challenging path to become an effective leader. Tell us about the inspiration for the book, why you wrote it, and who was the audience for this book.
Yeah. So as I said, I wrote a book before that is called Fast Scaling. And one reason for writing the first book was that many founders I work with actually fail because they want to scale their businesses too fast. So I thought, how could I help them? And not only the people I work with, but, all the founders out there. So I decided to write this book. And it's written as a handbook, pretty German style, pretty to the point. And then, a year later, I thought, actually choosing the wrong growth strategy is also nothing but a, let's say, leadership decision with a poor outcome. I don't like bad or poor decisions, but and then I started talking to founders. What are your challenges? And what about leadership? And one common feedback I received was, Patrick, leadership comes in piecemeal fashion. One day I hear I must be humble and strong at the same time.
Yes.
Then I attend a leadership course and they tell me, don't micromanage. You have to inspire and empower. Buzzwords. Yeah. And then, I also work for a publicly traded company. I also participated in this once a year trust building activities off-site. I know, but what we do, we are back in the trenches and we lead following our gut feeling. And that was more or less the feedback I received, not only from founders, but also from executives I work with. And I thought, okay, let's think about what I have learned throughout two years in leadership, 20 years in leadership positions. is it possible to create a framework that, solves this problem, that, people can take and just apply day in, day out to successfully walk the leadership path, to successfully become better and more effective leaders, something, a tool. So, and that was the inspiration. And certainly until I found the Leadership House framework, it took me some time, a lot of readings and a lot of thinking, but I ended up with this framework. And I think the feedback I've received so far is that, it really helps.
I think it's important. I think the framework is important, and we're going to get into that. And I'm really excited about that idea, that concept, because frankly, I've seen the same thing. There's 15,000 books been written on leadership. You can take it in all these different directions, but I think we need more and more tools to help package leadership in a way that helps people to be more effective in what they're doing. So I'm my hats off to you for doing this, to create this framework, because I think it's really important. Question to you though, this is sort of based, this is a leadership story about a CEO who walks a challenging path. So why did you write it as a story? It was kind of interesting, interested in why you took that path versus, as you said, your first book was a little more direct and to the point. And so this one's more of a story. Curious to know why you chose that style.
That's a great question, because actually I wrote this book as a handbook again. So there is another book written as a handbook. But I like this book, and maybe it becomes a working book later on. But when I thought about it, it's like, it's kind of my style again, straight to the point. But, I thought if I wrap this framework into the story, and then share in the story also real life experience I have made, could it be more tangible for people? If they read the story, they have fun, they enjoy the story, and while moving through the story, they move through the framework and learn why the elements are important, what they mean, and how they can apply it. I've never written a novel, so I didn't know whether I could do this. So I was, running around for probably 6 weeks, and then suddenly I woke up 3:00 in the morning, went downstairs, grabbed a coffee, went to the basement and started writing. And now it's about whenever I open this book, I'm still curious and still don't really believe that I have really written this. Wiley's publishing it. So but it seems I have a creative source somewhere.
I love it. I love it. They talk about the muse being like, I read a book once that talked about the muse and the critic. As an author, your muse is telling you, this is good, keep going. And then your critic is saying, I don't know if it's so good.
Not good enough. Yeah.
Your muse was going crazy with that story. And it's great to see that you're able to get tap into your creative side, because, you're dealing with a very, I don't know, the best way to describe it is much more black and white issues, more business issues. Whereas the creative side, the story side of it is much more open and fluid, and you bring in those two together. And again, I think it's really important that we as humans, we connect to stories a lot more than just facts and figures. Yeah. So the story, using a story is a brilliant way to do it, because you're going to be teaching fundamentals, but you're going to do it in a way that is going to be more appealing to readers, and they're more likely to get information out of it. So my hat's off to you putting it in a story format. In fact, our last guest in our last episode, we talked about the power of storytelling, and you're using storytelling to tell these principles. So it's a great approach. So why do you think, and we've touched on it a little bit, why do you think it's important that we try to understand leadership as a framework? How the idea of a framework, why is that helpful?
Yeah, I think all the books that we read and all the advice we get this is often very good advice, very good books. But I think, in my own experience, as I said before, if people tell me certain things, I may apply them. But do I really make the leap from leader to highly effective leader? I'm getting a bit better, but I'm still concerned, do I actually understand leadership? And it took me a long time. Leadership was also for me something I couldn't really grab and get my head around. And this is also what, everybody actually tells me. It's helpful, but it's not the way. It doesn't show me the way I need to go. And the framework, is something, and also the leadership house is kind of a picture, right? You have a foundation, you have pillars, and you have a roof. It's something that you can remember. Right? I believe, for example, that trust is the foundation of leadership, of the leadership house. If you like the framework, if you like the book, you will never forget that. And you will, if you go back to work and think about leadership, you will automatically think about trust and how important it is to build trusting relationship with people. Because in trusting relationships, we feel safe. And if we feel safe, like in the family, we do not hesitate. We do not watch our backs. We challenge one another. We give negative feedback because everybody knows it's not about the person. It's more about the topic. It's about in leadership, it's about the team, about the goal. If you build trusting relationships, and trust is important for the team, but it's important also if you want to hold people accountable. It's easier to hold people accountable if the people know that it's not against them. It's they trust you, that you are there because you want the best for them and for the best for the team. So trust has implications for everything. And this is also why I've chosen not to put the team as the foundation, but trust.
So we've got trust as the foundation. What are some other elements that are in the framework?
Yeah, so I think based on trust, there are actually, I would say, three parts. The first is, how to build a strong team. The second is how to set up a team for success. And the third is to make execution possible, to really get to the results, right? And let's talk about a little bit about the first three elements is trust and how to build a strong team. Strong team is the first pillar. Yeah, and if I talk about a strong team and ask leaders what is a strong team, very often, and I would be curious to hear what you hear, but the answer is I need to put the right people in the right roles. Yeah. But, you may like sports. I like soccer, for example. I don't know whether you know the PSG, Paris soccer team. They definitely have the right people in the right roles, but they don't win. They will never, ever win the championships. And in my view, they're not working as a team.
Yeah.
So for me, it's more about having the right people in the right roles. Having the right people for me has actually two dimensions. And this is, functional fit, but then cultural fit. Do we embrace the same values? And one value should be always, in my view, teamwork. If we have teamwork, it's all about the team, about the success of the team, then I think you create a team that is more than the sum of its parts. And therefore, for me, it's about trust, strong team as the first pillar, and then shared values as the second pillar. Has to do with culture, to be honest. Creating a strong culture, which is also difficult, another buzzword.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we hear culture talked about a lot. And in fact, I posed a question on Twitter the other day, which was, how does a good leader fix a bad culture? And it was interesting, some of the responses, but some of them were like, a leader doesn't affect the culture that much. And I'm thinking, that's not my experience. In turning around 8 different manufacturing businesses, it was all about the culture. It was all about establishing the right culture. As I came in as the new leader to try to turn the business around, it was always about putting together what were the most important things, what were the priorities, what were the standards that was acceptable, what wasn't acceptable, and our goals and in where we wanted to take the business. That was a big part of it, was establishing the right culture. So how is culture important in your view?
So it's funny that you say this, because I've already started working on the third book. It's about culture. It's about company culture. And it's the intersection between change management or change leadership and culture. So it's about, someone, it's a family business this time. Yeah. And the reason for not performing well is a dysfunctional organization, but because an unhealthy culture, and the protagonist, needs to change the culture, and she needs to change leadership to get going. So, because I agree what you say, culture is so important, and you can change culture, but it's difficult. It's not something you do overnight by just saying, let's embrace different values. I mean, probably you also know leaders who decide, to put a few values on the wall and in the entrance hall, and believe now everybody will behave differently. That's not the way it's going to work, right?
Right. Because it's really it's not just the words of the leader, but it's the actions of the leader and how they back up what they say. If they say this is the way we're going to be from now on, the second that they violate that through their actions, then it's just words. They're not important. It's words, and it's how the leader puts that in action that is so important when it comes to turning changing a culture that may be, it might not be performing at a high level, and you want to bring it to a higher level. A lot of it is doing what you say you're going to do, and making sure your words match, your actions match your words.
Yeah, absolutely. And you cannot even behave in a wrong way once. If you do that once, people think you will probably do that more often. So culture, the values are not so important. So it's really important to be a role model. And also the third book will actually have a framework. And I think if you want to change culture, it's also about creating this kind of sense of urgency, about building like a core team that wants to create this change. And one reason for writing this third book is, again, the same. People don't know how to do it, right? And it is important. If think about it. If I want to work with people, that are there for the same purpose I am there, that maybe strive for achieving the same vision, yeah, but also agree in terms of how we do it. And that's, for me, culture is, purpose. Why do we do the things we do? Vision. What do we want to achieve? Are we aligned in this regard? And then how do we want to achieve this? Our values. Do we agree? I think if everything is aligned, we will see the desired behavior of our team members. And if values are not aligned, a simple example is 80% want to collaborate and 20% don't care. Right? And if the leader accepts this, it's already the start of the end, because others will see that collaboration is not important. So you will see the few people who are not living up to the values, infect the others. So it's really, as a leader, about being a role model, about being consistent, about, walking the talk.
We'll be right back after a quick word from our sponsors.
Leadership skills are like any other skills. You need to practice them to get better at them. Best-selling leadership author John S. Rennie knows this. That's why he's written a new book called You Have the Watch. It's a guided journal for leaders designed to take you through an entire year of leadership training. By the end of the year, you will master 50 of the most important leadership skills. If you want to have a greater impact on the results and people in your organization, go to youhavethewatch.com and pick up your copy today.
This episode is brought to you by Jeremy Clevenger Fitness. As a high-performing leader, you know that leadership isn't about telling people what to do. It's about leading by example. And for most people, the one area that they're lacking when it comes to leading by example is their health and fitness. By improving your health and fitness, every other area of your life improves. But how do you get and stay fit as a busy leader? Well, you do what you've always done. You hire the best person for the job. Don't struggle on your own. Put Jeremy Clevenger on your team. Jeremy will work with you to take your physique, mindset, nutritional habits, and more to the next level with his step-by-step, all-inclusive coaching program. Now, I've worked with Jeremy for the past year, and I'm in the best shape of my life. If you want to step up your game, reach out to Jeremy at apexperformancesystems.com to find out more and get your initial consultation scheduled with him today. This episode is brought to you by the Sasquatch Flag Company. The Sasquatch Flag Company is a family-owned business in New England that builds hand-carved American flags from seasoned white pine. Each flag is hand hand-built, and each star on the flag is hand-hammered and chiseled. No two flags are alike. They offer a variety of flag designs to honor the police, military, firefighters, dispatchers, and search and rescue personnel, to name a few. These stunning handmade flags look great in an office, a studio, the back porch, or above the fireplace mantle. They make the perfect gift for the veteran, first responder, or patriot in your life. Now, I love these flags, and I've been giving them as gifts for years, and I was a customer long before they became a sponsor of the show. I can't recommend them enough. So if you're looking for that perfect, uniquely American-made gift to give away, or if you want to treat yourself, go to sasquatchflags.com and get your order in today.
You got me thinking. I've been thinking about this as I saw it in the book, this idea of teamwork. You call it the secret sauce of successful teams. And then you also say that it's not about just putting the right talent in the right position. You have to create, again, I've been on some amazing teams, and when it all hits, it's amazing. It's a sum is greater than the parts, right? When you create this teamwork, what are some ideas or thoughts of how we develop those really special teams that have that gel and that work together to achieve a common objective? What are some ideas maybe from the book or your own experiences that help us get that team to be performing like a team and not just some all-stars that are in some positions?
No, yeah, absolutely. I think, and many of the other elements of the leadership house framework are about ensuring that teams collaborate, about generating teamwork. Maybe one other pillar is called shared goals. So we all know that let me start that way. Purpose, why do we do the things we do? Important. Vision, great. But purpose and vision, many times rather intangible. We cannot say, here's our purpose, here's our vision, let's go and get there. You don't see necessarily people collaborate. They might start at different ends. They might do not reach out to each other. So there must be something more tangible. And these can be more short-term goals, right? Maybe 3 to 5 goals. The question now is, and many leaders I worked with thought, they had to tell their teams what to do.
Yeah.
I'm disagreeing. Yeah. At least if you have created a strong team, yeah, right people, right roles, same values, they trust each other. Yeah. Why do I want to tell them now what to do? Hopefully, I have hired people who are smarter than I am, at least in their area of expertise.
Yeah.
So I don't tell them what to do. I involve them in the goal-setting process and ask them, this is our vision. What do you think? How do we get there?
Yeah.
And, psychologically, in my experience, it is, suddenly the goals that I wanted to impose on them become their goals because they input, they are involved. And they tell me what they think they should do. And the magic happens because they think, that's the right thing to do. And they will do whatever they can to achieve them. And also, if they need help, they start reaching out to people. And if they see that the goals they have created might be missed because some other team members do not live up to the expectations of the team, they might also challenge them. And this is why, and that is only one element, but one element that is important if you want to create teamwork and create a team that, works towards goals. I think it's about involving them. I've also talked about accountability. I think it's also an element of the leadership house framework. And accountability is also a buzzword again. For me, it's about, holding our team members accountable for both the tasks, but especially for the results they achieve. And if you hold them accountable for the results they achieve, and if accountability is a value in the team, so everybody knows it's about achieving results, then, people work towards results. They won't tell you, well, it's not my fault that we didn't achieve our shared goal. It was not my responsibility. They know it. No, it's about the results. And again, if you know that you are measured by the results you achieve and you see that you might miss them, again, you reach out, you ask for help.
Yeah.
And you offer help. So all elements for me of this framework, create a team that works together jointly towards goals and executing a vision that the leader may have. But it's really powerful because it's about them, not about the leader.
Yeah. That's really important. And the one thing I learned, over doing this for 30 years is that when I did involve my employees in, some of the goal setting that we did, like we used to do an annual offsite with the management teams, and we would sort of say, okay, where do we want to go this year? Here's what we did last year. Where do we want to go this year? And I really involved, the leadership team in sort of setting up the goals for the business for the year.
Yeah.
And one of the things I learned through that process is there was ownership. Like it wasn't just coming down from on high. Scrap has to be here, EBITDA is here, growth is here, revenue growth is here. It was more a bottom up. Like what did we do right? What did we do wrong last year? What can we do this year? What are the things that we want to get done this year? And when I involved the teams, the measures became their measures, not my measures. It became there was a high level of ownership towards the goals. And I think that's a big part of it. And I think a lot of times in corporate, we want to push down goals, because like we're in charge, we'll tell you what the goals are. And then they become, they're not owned by the people. They're just, that's John's goals. Those aren't my goals. Right. So I think when we involve people in the process, then there's a high level of ownership. And then and especially if they work together developing them, then there's like the team, these are the team's goals. This is what we want to do. We think as a team we can achieve this year. And I think that's more powerful than something coming down from a memo from the corporate office.
Absolutely. I think you've also experienced a situation where you ask them and suddenly you can just listen.
Yes.
You can listen to what everybody says. And, if you then actively listen, it's just wonderful. You might hear something, I think that should be our goal. But then, Fred, you should be able to deliver this. And can you actually? And they start talking and you're sitting there and, suddenly it's not about you having a monologue, but, it's about observing how your team starts interacting.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes. Yeah. This is really, really good stuff. What are some typical leadership challenges that leaders face and where the framework can help them think through it? What are some of those challenges?
I mean, one major challenge is certainly self-doubts. I've recently given a TEDx talk about this topic. And for this, I did some research about, what, kind of challenges are out there. And there was one study conducted by one of the most renowned global consulting firms asking more than, I think, 7,000 leaders from more than 100 countries, do you feel prepared for the leadership challenges ahead? And only 17% said definitely yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it was contrary. And, for me, it shows, that, shows me one thing, that people don't really know how to go about leading people and groups. Yeah. But shows also that, there's a lot of self-doubt in this leadership area. Can I really do it? And myself, as I didn't know how to lead, how to do it, I also had self-doubts a long time. When I started out, I thought I had to tell everybody what to do.
Right.
I still remember this in my law firm, when I was pretty junior, I was onto everything. Yeah, but that's not leadership, So it's also for me about walking this path. Then crucial conversations is another leadership challenge, Do you really want to give negative feedback? How do you deal with conflicts? And I think also here, if you think about the framework again, the trust, if you have trust in relationships, you can have these conversations.
Yeah.
Like at least easier.
Yes.
There are many challenges like not being able to delegate. And here, another pillar of the framework is empowerment. Again, a buzzword. Empowerment is for me not giving the tools and resources people need. It's about, enabling the team members to make important decisions.
Yes.
So that we do not become bottlenecks.
Yes.
And at the same time, it motivates people. It reinforces the trust because they see that we trust in their capabilities. And if you have followed the framework and have created a strong team, why would I now, want to approve everything? Right? It feels a little bit like losing control, but empowerment is not about losing control. It's about giving control to the people who can best handle it, to the strong team.
Yes.
So this is also a way why this element of the framework helps leaders overcome the leadership challenges. But yeah, probably 10, 12 challenges. Communication is certainly also a topic. And I think if there will ever be a second edition of this book, probably communication will be a new pillar.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an important part of leadership. We cover that, with a number of different guests talk about communication on the show because it is a big element in the leadership journey as well. I think I love what you're talking about with respect to empowerment. One of the things that we learned in the Navy was that you have to delegate authority, but as a leader, you maintain responsibility. What does that mean? It means that you give your team the ability to make the decisions and to make the call, but you as leader are ultimately responsible. You don't give up that. And so a lot of times in corporate, what I saw was we delegated responsibility and we maintain authority. So we would hold our team members accountable for the results and they, fire them, write them off, yell at them when they didn't reach the goals, right? But then we kept all the authority at the leadership level and you have to come to me for permission. And so it's just the opposite that we want to try to get to, which is we delegate authority, but then we as leaders are also ultimately responsible for the outcomes of the business. And we don't ever give that up. We're responsible.
Great. I absolutely agree. I just use different terms.
Yeah.
I always say I can delegate responsibility. I can say you are responsible for this and that, but ultimately accountable.
Yeah.
I'm ultimately accountable.
Yeah.
Because whatever, I hear people say, it is his fault, but, either you have hired that person or you have hired the person who have hired that person.
Yes.
Or you have created the team. Whatever the team doesn't get right, it's ultimately your fault as leaders. You are in charge of leading people.
Yes.
Of making sure. So you can delegate a responsibility, but you can never, ever delegate accountability. That's the terms I use in this context.
Similar, same concept, but the idea is that we own it. If something goes wrong on your watch, it's your fault as the leader.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is. So yeah, absolutely. So we're getting close to the end. What final message would you like to leave to all the leaders that are listening into this show from the book or your experiences?
Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity. My TED Talk, I ended it with the following. I asked, what if we went back to work and applied the Leadership House framework? I'm convinced we could become more effective leaders, right? And then I said, what if we also shared the Leadership House framework with our leadership teams and the broader organizations? I'm convinced we could turn our followers into leaders themselves, and suddenly maybe the effective leadership trickles down the organization. And, if we come back to the 17% of Korn Ferry, creates people, more than 70% in organizations, who embrace leadership and know what to do. So my wish would be, if you like the framework, if you find value in it, share it, apply it, and then hopefully, this book is not about, unfortunately, you're also an author. It's not about getting rich. It's about helping other people to become better.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm so grateful for the opportunity to share it here with you, Jon. And I'm happy if people find value in it, reach out to me and tell me it was helpful. Thanks a lot. Whatever. Also negative feedback, certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. So how can our listeners find out more about you and this new book?
Yeah, I mean, the new book is already, it can be pre-ordered on Amazon. And I think if you broadcast this episode, it's already available on Amazon. Wiley will also put it in the bookstores across the globe. I hopefully stumble over one at one point in time. I can't wait for this moment.
So yes, and I always say it's always fun to see your book in the wild. I call it in the wild. You see your own book, so oh, that's my book.
That's I can't wait to have this opportunity. No, and they can also certainly on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, to be honest. And there's a website patrickflesner.com where you can also contact me. I'm also doing keynotes, so if you think leadership is a topic, please reach out. Happy to do so.
Okay, fantastic. We're going to put links in the show notes for those resources. The book is called The Leadership House, and it gives a framework, an excellent framework for leadership, told in a story, which is interesting, and you're not going to want to put it down. I highly recommend this book. It's called Leadership House. It's brand new. It's coming out. It'll be here at the end of April. It'll be coming out, and so we'll have links in the show notes. I highly encourage you to pick this book up if you're struggling to get your hands on what is leadership. This is going to give you a framework to help you understand that. And it's, Patrick, I really appreciate you writing this book because I think you're right. It's like Jell-O. It's hard to get a handle on leadership. It's a lot of different things. And so developing the framework, I think, makes it easier for leaders to get their hands on and understanding what leadership is all about. So thank you for writing this book. And leaders, I highly encourage you to check it out. Check out the links below. So, Patrick, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for sharing this new book. And I wish you the best with this book as it comes out. And I hope it really takes hold and it sells all over the world.
Thanks so much. And I really appreciated this conversation. It was really fun. And as I said before, talking with someone who's so knowledgeable about leadership is always a pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, thank you as well. I really appreciate it. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.
Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all you do.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information and updates, please visit our website at www.deepleadershippodcast.com or johnsrennie.com. Until next time, take care.
Hey, what's happening out there, everybody? This is Lawrence Ross, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about my podcast, The Lawrence Ross Show.
Egomaniac.
It's a 2-hour weekly exploration into my mind. I also do sketches, celebrity impersonations.
You're out of order!
And I also do song parodies. Not too shabby for a blind guy.
Not only are you visually impaired, but you are geographically impaired.
New episodes are released every Friday. Check it out on your favorite podcasting platform or listen to it here on Society 13 on Electrocast.
If you're a working professional wondering what's next for your career, you've come to the right place. Whether you're looking for a promotion, growth, or a potential career transition, look no further. With over 30 years working in a variety of industries, I share my insider knowledge with those ready to get ahead on Career Advancement with Craig Ansell. Tune in to get your strategies for success.